Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going deep into the world of file
All
systems.
right, file systems.
Yeah. Now I know what you might be thinking.
Oh, yeah?
File systems. That doesn't sound super thrilling, right? But actually, this is one of those tech things that we use every single day, and most of us have no idea how it works.
Yeah, it's true.
So, our wonderful listener sent us this really cool podcast episode. They dove into file systems.
Okay.
And one of the things I thought was so interesting was this analogy they used of like a giant pile of papers,
Okay.
right? That's your computer without a file system.
Oh, wow.
It's just complete and utter chaos. There's no organization, no way to find
You'd
anything.
never be able to find anything. You'd be completely lost.
Exactly. It would be a nightmare.
Right.
And that's kind of what a file system does. It brings order to that chaos.
Yeah. And it's essential not just for organization. I mean, think about it. File systems are about security. Like, who has access to what files? They're the gatekeepers of our data.
It's so true. And it's something that, like I said, we use every day, but we don't really think about.
Right. We take it for granted.
So the podcast mentioned, some familiar names like NTFS
Right.
for Windows users or HFS Plus for Apple devices, I
Right.
guess 4 if you're using Linux.
Right.
But those are kind of like your local organizers, like on your computer.
Yeah.
But then things get really wild when we start talking about distributed file systems.
They're a whole different beast and essential when you're dealing with massive amounts of data.
Yeah, it's like going from a filing cabinet to like this giant library.
Massive interconnected library. Think about it this way. Every day we create an insane amount of data, more than ever before.
Right.
And as that data grows, eventually you hit a wall.
Right.
Your single computer just can't handle it all.
Makes sense.
That's where these distributed systems come into play. Instead of storing everything on one machine, they distribute your data across multiple, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of machines all working together.
So it's like having a team of librarians, each responsible for a specific section of the library.
Exactly. And that's just scratching the surface.
So we're talking about more storage space, obviously, but what are the other advantages of going distributed? Like, give me the expert level insights. What are we talking about here?
Well, one of the biggest is scalability. As your data needs grow, you can just add more nodes to the network.
Oh.
Think of nodes as those individual computers working together. You don't have to overhaul your entire system. You just expand it as needed.
That's pretty cool.
Right. And then there's fault tolerance, which is huge in the data world.
Right, because if my laptop crashes, I don't want to lose all my photos and my important documents and everything.
Exactly. With a distributed file system, your data is copied across multiple nodes. So if one machine fails, you're not in panic mode. Your data is safe and sound on other machines in that network.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that brings us to a pioneer in distributed file systems, Google's very own Google File System, or GFS for short.
Oh, yeah, GFS. That's what they use to wrangle all of the Google data.
Exactly. All those search queries, YouTube videos, emails. It's mind-blowing how much data they handle.
It really is. And what I find so fascinating about GFS is that it was designed to run on something called commodity hardware. I'll be honest, I had to look that one up. I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, it sounds a bit jargony.
It does. So break it down for me. What is commodity hardware?
It basically means using affordable, off-the-shelf computers instead of relying on those really specialized, super expensive servers.
So Google figured out how to manage these mountains of data using basically regular computers.
It's a brilliant approach.
Yeah.
Pretty ingenious, right?
Yeah.
And GFS's impact went way beyond Google. I mean, it really inspired this whole wave of new distributed file systems, like Hadoop distributed file system.
HDFS.
HDFS.
There you go.
Yeah, HDFS. That's one that kept coming up in this podcast. So how does HDFS kind of build on what GFS started? So HDFS takes all those core principles that we've been talking about,
Right.
The data chunking, replication, using affordable hardware, and brings it to big data, massive data sets.
Okay.
So with HDFS, instead of storing a huge file as this giant thing, right? It breaks it down into smaller chunks,
Okay.
usually around 128 or 256 megabytes each. And then those chunks are spread out across all those different nodes in the cluster.
Okay, so instead of one massive file, you've got these little pieces all over the place. So how does that make things faster? It seems like it'd be more complicated.
Right. So that's where Hadoop's processing framework MapReduce comes in.
MapReduce. Okay.
Yeah, so think of MapReduce, like a bunch of chefs all working on different parts of a meal at the same time.
Okay.
Instead of one chef trying to cook everything in one pot, you've got this efficient system where each chef, or in this case, each node, is processing its assigned data at the same time.
I like that analogy. Makes a lot of sense. So basically, this whole distributed approach, right? Breaking data into pieces, spreading it around, processing it concurrently, it all adds up to like some serious speed gains.
Exactly. Especially when you're dealing with these massive amounts of data.
It's really incredible when you think about it.
It is.
So, okay, that all sounds good in theory, but what about like real world examples? Like who is actually using HDFS out there in the wild?
Oh, tons of companies.
Okay.
Yahoo was one of the earliest adopters of Hadoop and HDFS.
Mm.
They used it to manage and analyze, massive volumes of web data.
Yeah.
That helped them do things like give people more relevant search results and, those like eerily accurate recommendations.
Wait, hold on. You mean like those ads that follow you around online? Like I looked at a pair of shoes once and now they're everywhere.
Exactly.
That's HDFS.
HDFS is probably behind a lot of that. Crunching data, understanding your browsing habits.
It's both impressive and a little creepy.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
But it's not just online shopping, though. Spotify uses it, too.
No way. Spotify. I love Spotify. What are they using it for?
So they're using HDFS to manage and analyze all that data from user listening habits.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Every song you play, every playlist you create, every time you skip a track, it's all generating data.
That's true. I never thought about it like that.
And HDFS helps them make sense of it all to create those personalized playlists, music recommendations.
So it's helping fuel my music obsession. I like it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the what and the how of HDFS. But for someone like me, not a data scientist, why should I really care?
That's the big question.
Yeah, like break it down for me. What are the key takeaways here? What are the advantages over like traditional systems?
So at its core, HDFS is about scalability.
Okay.
As your data needs grow, you just add more nodes to the cluster. You don't have to do a complete system overhaul.
Okay.
Think of it like adding another floor to your data center instead of having to build a whole new building.
Oh, okay, that's a good analogy.
Right. And then, of course, there's that fault tolerance that
Yeah.
we talked about. Knowing your data is safe even if a machine in the cluster fails.
Peace of mind.
Exactly.
Right.
And on top of that, it's really cost effective.
Right.
Because remember, we talked about the commodity hardware. You don't have to spend a fortune on those high-end servers.
So it's scalable, it's resilient, and it's easy on the budget. I mean, that's like a win-win-win.
Pretty much. Although there is some competition in the distributed file system world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
things are always changing, right?
That's true.
Cloud-based solutions like Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, those are becoming more and more popular.
They are everywhere.
They are everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's easy to see why. They offer that ease of use, the scalability that the cloud is known for.
So it's like comparing like HDFS to like a bespoke suit that's tailored.
Right.
And then S3 is more like your high quality, ready to wear.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really depends on what you're looking for. Like if you need something super robust that you can really customize, you've got a lot of control. HDFS might be the way to go.
Yeah.
But if you want ease of use, quick scalability, easy integration with all those other cloud services, then S3 or something similar might be a better fit.
So it's not like a one size fits all. It really depends on your needs.
Exactly. The right tool for the job.
I like it. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. Everything from like the file systems on our laptops to these giant systems that
Right.
are powering these massive companies. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that these systems we've been talking about,
Yeah.
they're kind of invisible. Most of us don't think about them.
Right.
But they have a huge impact on how we use technology every single day.
That's so true.
Whether it's, just organizing your files or these massive data centers, file systems, they make it all work.
The unsung heroes of the digital age.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So next time you guys are saving a file, streaming a movie, take a moment and think about the file systems that are working hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. And maybe even think about how these systems might change as we create more and more data in the future. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.